Hi everybody, today I will show you about how to use event handling in React. Event handling is used when I press to the button in the UI use interface, and here I define the default project in the previous. I define this is simple as it has only one heading or heading one content here, and now I want to define a class named talk button class. Here it stands from react.component, or the talk button is now a component or a React component defined as a class. Here is a constructor. The constructor define the initialization some of the property, and I call the parent class the constructor of parent class by using super, and this is a render. And here we have the React component, and the return here, what is this? It will return the component, and inside the component you can have a div or division element. So here, because it only have a button, so I can only show one button here, and this button is the same as a button in HTML. It has a sum of the handle to or click, so it is a property of on click, and I want to customize this by using class. Remember that it uses class name, not class, because it is in React, not HTML. So this talk button I defined in the CSS file. We have the margin for top, down, left, right, and the padding for top, down, left, right here, and the color, the background color is green, and the text color is white, the white color for text. So we give it a width, a fixed width of 150 pixels. So I replace this with the React element by adding an element here with talk button is a component. We add a component talk button, and slash to open, to close. I open the project, npm start, and C is a web browser. You can see in the web browser. Oh, we have an error. What does it? It is an error because you do not have the comma. Yes, and I refresh this here. Okay, here it is a button with border. You can remove the border by adding the border to none. So open the CSS and set the border of talk button is equal to none. It means there are no border. And see here, oh nice. And I want to add a content to the button. This is a talk button. It is a content. Okay, nice. So if I want to add a click to event to this button, what can I do? So I define this dot state. State is a private property, and is a property of state, and I set the first value, and the initial value is true. So in this constructor, it is not necessary to set the setter, but in other function you have to set the setter. So on click is this, and after this it is a button click. It is a function when you press a button, and I want to define it. I have to define it inside the class. It is a method of this class. The button click is equal to It is an arrow function, and this arrow function allow you to call this dot button click inside the render function. And here is a around function, and here is the implementation of arrow function. And set state here is a setter, and I set previous prep state. Prep state is a previous state before calling this function. And here is the implementation. Once I click the button, I will implement this to increment the is on. And so the is on now here is previous state dot is on. It when the is on is 4, it will become true, or if the is on is true, it will become false. And this function called an event handler function. So the set state here is the setter of the is a setter of the state, and using this setter we can toggle, or we can toggle the is on property. It means that is on is if is on is true, it becomes false, or vice versa. Inside this, we define the arrow function, and the arrow function is very important to call when you want to add some of the implementation to the function. It does not name in the arrow function. And here this is an operator, a conditional operator. This dot state dot is on is true, it will call, it will show turn on, and if it is false, we can show turn off. So all of these, it is a conditional operator, and this call when the is on is true, and vice versa, it call when is on is false. And now we will see in the output by refresh. After pressing, it will become opt on. This toggle button turning off, turning on, you can change it more to see, for easier to see by delete this and delete the semicolon and refresh. Yes, I can see is okay. Add space here for more nice, and you okay. Yes, when you click, it will toggle the button, so you can add more space to here, 200. Yes, after click to the button, you can toggle the state or change the content accordingly. Another way to use to implement the handler function by using the binding here. You can use a binding inside the constructor function. So you can define a property, a button click, and this will bind to this function. So the button click here is a function. The content of the function is similar to this. Then I copy and paste to here. This is a button click, and I want to bind the handler to this button, to this function, by defining the property that this button click is equal to this button click, and I bind it to this. It means bind it to the pointer toggle button, or bind it to the class, to the object of this class. And here is a way to use the second method to handle function. and yes, we have a tree to remember here. Yes, it is to buy, and then we define the on click again to define the function. So it is similar to the previous, but this is another way to define the button event. And you can see that we have I conclude that we have two methods of using a button handler to event handler. You can see the method, and two of this method are equivalent. You can use one of this, it is okay.